object, and place information. What we understand, what we understand, what we understand, 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 what we understand to be the relationships anatomically between the different parts of the medial temporal lobe. The reason for making this explicit is that it helps us understand not just how the parts are interconnected, but how they might give rise to a hierarchy of memory formation. Anatomically speaking, what happens is that inputs from the ventral stream, that is from the inferior temporal cortex, project into the perirhinal cortex, whereas inputs from the dorsal stream, which occupies the posterior parietal cortex, projects into the posterior parahippocampal cortex. These two areas in turn project to the entorhinal cortex, and from the entorhinal cortex, finally, there is a projection into the hippocampus, into the hippocampus, insert 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 the hippocampus, into the hippocampus and the hippocampal circuit. This is actually a hierarchical organization anatomically, and leads not just to input from these visual processing streams, but also projects back to them. The critical area within the medial temporal lobe for object recognition is the perirhinal cortex. Lesions to other regions within the medial temporal lobe have very little effect on object recognition. Similarly, the critical region within this tissue for place recognition memory is the posterior parahippocampal cortex. And again, we believe that damage in other regions of the medial temporal lobe have a little effect. Now, the perirhinal cortex and the parahippocampal cortex, both of which project to the entorhinal cortex, makes this a tentative or a potential region for associating object and place information so that they can be formed as an association in memory. And finally, all of these regions projecting through the entorhinal cortex into the hippocampus may lead to still higher forms of cognitive memory. Based on evidence that we and others have been obtaining in human patients who have selective damage to the hippocampus, we are beginning to think that the parahippocampal region is particularly important for laying down facts or knowledge about the world, whereas the hippocampus is critical instead for a higher order type of cognitive memory, which we refer to as episodic memory, or memory of the events of everyday life.